I cried in my stylist's chair the first time I went short, and nobody warned me that would happen. A pixie can be the most freeing cut you ever get after 60, or it can be the thing that quietly ages you 10 years if even one detail is wrong. There are 7 mistakes I see over and over, on women who did everything right except the one thing nobody told them. Some are about the cut itself, some are about what happens between appointments, and one is about a word you're probably using with your stylist that's working against you. I researched the worst style and beauty mistakes and the best fixes for women over 50 so you get real results, fast. If you haven't already, hit subscribe. I cover this every single week. Part 1. The length that's quietly aging you. Here's something almost nobody tells you when you first go short. The exact same pixie length that looks stunning on one 65-year-old can look severe and unforgiving on another. And it has nothing to do with your face shape the way you'd think. It's about your neck. Most women walk into the salon, point at a photo of a pixie they love, and ask for that length, without anyone ever mentioning that the photo they're pointing at was probably shot on a woman with a longer neck and less softness under the chin. When that same cut lands on a shorter or softer neck, it doesn't read as chic. It reads as harsh. And here's the part that stings a little. You might be looking in the mirror right now thinking you did something wrong with your face, when the truth is the length itself was simply never built for your particular neck. I want you to think back to the last time you saw your own cut from the side, in a photo somebody else took, not a selfie. Did it look shorter and blunter than you expected? That's usually the moment women first notice this mistake, and it's almost never about the cut being bad. It's about the length being wrong for the neck it's sitting on. The fix is one specific phrase, and I want you to actually write it down. The next time you're in the chair, say this exactly. I want graduated length at the nape, not a blunt cut. That's it. That's the whole fix. Graduated length means the hair at the very back of your neck is layered to taper gradually instead of being cut straight across in one hard line. A blunt cut at the nape is what creates that severe, almost helmet-like look that so many women associate with pixies just don't work on me, when really it was one specific cutting technique working against them the entire time. Here's why this matters so much more after 60 specifically. As we age, the skin along the jaw and upper neck naturally softens and loses some of its former firmness. That's simply biology, not something to be ashamed of. A blunt, hard-edged line at the nape creates a visual contrast against that softness that draws the eye directly to it, almost like an underline. Graduated layering does the opposite. It creates movement and a soft transition point instead of a hard stop, so the eye moves fluidly along your neckline instead of snagging on a sharp edge. The technical side of this, for your own understanding, is that your stylist will use point cutting or a razor at the nape rather than blunt shears straight across, feathering the ends so they release gradually rather than sitting in one dense, heavy line. I want to tell you about a woman named Rosalind, because her story is the one that made this mistake click for me. Rosalind had been getting the same short pixie request for almost 3 years, always frustrated that it looked good for the first 10 days, and then started to feel heavy and dated by week 3. She assumed her hair type was just difficult. When she finally asked her new stylist about it, the stylist took one look at the back of her neck and said, "Nobody has ever graduated your nape, have they?" That was the entire problem. One appointment with graduated tapering at the back, and Rosalind said it was like her whole cut suddenly had somewhere to go instead of just stopping abruptly. She didn't change the length. She didn't change the color. She changed one single cutting technique at the back of her head, and the entire cut read is 10 years more current. The snapback moment here is worth sitting with for a second. This is the difference between a pixie that reads as she got a haircut, and a pixie that reads as she has a whole intentional look. When your nape is graduated correctly, people don't consciously register the cut at all. They just register that you look put together, current, and comfortable in your own skin. That's the actual goal of a great pixie after 60, and it hinges on this one detail most women never think to ask about. So here's your before and after, laid out plainly. Before, a blunt straight across cut at the nape that creates a hard line right where your neck is naturally softening with age, making the whole cut look heavier and more dated with every week that passes. After, graduated, feathered layering at the nape that tapers gradually, creating movement instead of a hard stop, so the cut looks intentional and current for the full 6 to 8 weeks between appointments instead of just the first 10 days. And that length mistake is really only the first domino. Because once your stylist gets the length right, there's a texture decision that trips up almost as many women. And it's one that has nothing to do with cutting at all. Part 2. The fringe nobody custom fits, and the color choice working against your cut. The second mistake catches women off guard because it doesn't feel like a mistake in the moment. It feels like following instructions. Most women who get a Pixie with any kind of fringe are handed a generic sideswept piece that was designed for a standard forehead height and a standard hairline. And nobody stops to ask whether that's actually the shape of your forehead. If your fringe was never customized to your specific hairline and brow position, it can sit either too high, making your forehead look larger and more exposed than it actually is, or too heavy, dragging your whole face downward and adding visual weight exactly where you don't want it after 60. And the frustrating part is, this isn't something you'd necessarily notice right away. You just start feeling like something about your face looks off in photos, without being able to name what it is. Here's the exact phrase to bring to your stylist. Can we custom fit my fringe to my hairline, not a standard template? That single sentence changes the entire consultation. A custom fit means your stylist looks at where your hairline actually starts, where your brows actually sit, and cuts the fringe to break at a point that flatters your specific proportions, rather than applying a fringe length that was designed as a one-size-fits-most template. For some women that means the fringe breaks slightly above the brow. For others it means letting it skim just at brow level with soft, textured ends rather than a hard line. The point is that it's decided by looking at your actual face, not by pulling from a generic reference photo. This matters more after 60 because our forehead height and brow position shift subtly with age, and a fringe that was cut for you at 45 may simply no longer sit in the right place on your face at 68. A custom-fit fringe accounts for that ongoing shift instead of repeating an old measurement out of habit. Once it's fitted correctly, a soft fringe can actually do something remarkable. It draws attention to the eyes, which tend to be one of the most expressive and youthful features on a woman's face regardless of age, instead of drawing attention to the forehead or the hairline. I think about a woman named Colette here, who told me she'd worn essentially the same fringe length for over a decade, because it was just what she always got. When she finally asked her stylist to actually look at her current hairline and brow position before cutting, the stylist adjusted the break point by less than an inch. Colette said the change was so small she almost didn't believe it would matter. But the moment it was styled and dry, her eyes were suddenly the first thing you noticed in her whole face, not her forehead. One small custom measurement, and her whole expression read brighter and more alert. Before and after, specifically, before a generic template fringe cut to a standard length that either exposes too much forehead or drags weight downward across the brow. After, a fringe custom measured to your actual hairline and current brow position, breaking exactly where it lifts and frames your eyes instead of competing with your forehead. Now let's talk about something that trips up even more women than the fringe does, because it happens at the color bowl, not the cutting chair, and it can undo everything a great cut just accomplished. The mistake here is choosing an all-over, flat, single-tone color on a Pixie, especially when going lighter or fully gray and blended. It feels like the safe choice. It is almost never the flattering one. A Pixie is a very close, very graphic cut. There's simply less hair and less length to create natural shadow and dimension the way longer hair does on its own. When you apply one flat, uniform color across that short a canvas, every single texture line and layer you paid for in the cut disappears visually, because there's no tonal variation left to catch the light and show it off. The cut can be technically perfect and still look strangely flat in photos, and most women blame the cut itself, when the real culprit is sitting in the color formula. The specific phrase to use with your colorist is this: I want lowlights woven through, not a flat single process color. Lowlights are subtly darker pieces placed strategically through the top and sides, and on a Pixie their entire job is to recreate the shadow and dimension that length would normally provide on its own. Even 2 or 3 shades of subtle depth, placed correctly along the crown and part, will make every layer in your cut visibly separate and catch the light instead of blurring into one solid block of tone. I think of Diane here, who went fully gray and loved the color itself, but kept saying her cut looked flatter, than it had with her old length. Her colorist wove in lowlights just 2 shades deeper through her crown, nothing dramatic, and within one wash Diane said she could finally see the shape of her own haircut again in the mirror. The dimension didn't change her gray. It revealed the cut that was already there underneath the flat color. Before and after. Before, one flat single process tone that erases the visible shape of your cut under normal light. After, subtle woven lowlights that recreate depth and shadow, so every layer you're paying for at the cutting chair actually shows up in the mirror and in photos. 2 mistakes down, 5 to go, and the next one is the one I get asked about more than almost any other because it's not about the salon at all. It's about what you're doing or not doing every single morning at home. Part 3. The morning routine that's undoing your whole cut. Here's a fact that surprises almost every woman I talk to. The single biggest reason a pixie cut looks incredible on day 1 and disappointing by day 4 has nothing to do with the cut itself, and nothing to do with your hair type either. It's the order you do things in every morning. Most women wash or wet their hair, towel it roughly, and reach straight for product or a dryer, in that order, because that's the order we've always done things in with longer hair. On a pixie, that exact sequence is actively working against the cut, because short hair has so little weight to fall back on its own. The way it dries in those first 60 seconds essentially decides its shape for the entire day. You've probably had the experience of getting a gorgeous blowout at the salon, loving it for the drive home, and then waking up the next morning to something that looks nothing like what you left with. If that's happened to you more than once, this is almost certainly why, and it's such a relief to hear it's not your hair being difficult. It's one small sequencing fix. The fix is a specific 3-step order, and I want you to actually commit it to memory because it changes everything. Step 1. Apply a lightweight mousse or texturizing spray to damp hair immediately after washing, while it's still wet, never after it's already started to air dry. Step 2. Rough dry with your fingers first, lifting at the roots, before you ever pick up a round brush or a diffuser attachment. Step 3. Only once the shape is roughly set with your fingers do you go back in with any tool for refinement. The reason this order matters so much is that product applied to already damp hair distributes evenly through every strand, while product applied to dry hair just sits on top, and finger drying first trains the direction and lift of a pixie the way a brush alone never can on such short hair. Here's the part that really matters for us specifically after 60. Our hair typically has a finer diameter and a bit less natural oil production than it did decades ago, so it holds a trained shape more easily than younger, coarser hair does, but only if that shape is set correctly in those first few minutes. This is actually good news. It means once you get this 3-step order right, your pixie will hold its shape through the day with far less daily effort than most women assume, because you're finally working with your hair's current texture instead of fighting it with the wrong sequence. I want to tell you about a woman I'll call Bernadette, who told me she genuinely considered growing her pixie out because she felt like she was restyling it from scratch every single morning, and it was exhausting. When she switched the order, product to damp hair first, finger dry and lift second, tool only third, she said the difference by day 3 was almost unbelievable. Her cut was holding its shape from the moment she left the house until the moment she got home, without her touching it once in between. She didn't change her product. She didn't change her cut. She changed the order she did 3 things in. And suddenly her morning routine went from 15 minutes of frustration to about 4 minutes of ease. The snapback result here is genuinely one of the biggest ones in this whole video. Getting this order right doesn't just make your hair look better, it gives you back time every single morning. And it means the money you spend on a great cut actually shows up every day of the 6 or 8 weeks between appointments, instead of only on the day you leave the salon. Before and after. Before, product applied after the hair has started drying, followed by brushing or diffusing without any finger lifting first, resulting in a flat, collapsed shape by midday that looks nothing like your salon result. After, product applied to damp hair immediately, fingers lifting and rough drying the roots first, tools used only for final refinement, holding lift and shape reliably from morning until night. I promised you 7 mistakes, and we're only halfway there. The next 2 both happen at the same appointment, and they're the pair I see most often getting tangled together in ways that quietly shorten how long your cut actually looks good. Part 4. The appointment timing trap and the sideburn detail everyone skips. Let's talk about something that sounds almost too simple to be a real mistake, and yet it's one of the most common reasons a pixie starts looking off weeks before most women expect it to. It's your appointment schedule itself. A pixie grows out completely differently than longer hair does, because there's so little length to begin with. Even a small amount of new growth changes the entire silhouette of the cut, not just the length at the ends. Most women were trained by decades of longer hairstyles to book appointments every 8 to 10 weeks or even longer, and they carry that exact same spacing over into their pixie without realizing the math has completely changed. Here's the number that surprises almost everyone. A pixie typically needs a trim every 4 to 6 weeks, not 8 to 10, specifically to maintain its shape, not just its length. That's not your stylist trying to get you in the chair more often for the sake of it. It's because the ratio of new growth to total hair length is so much higher on short hair. A 1/4 inch of new growth on hair that's only 1.5 inches long changes the entire proportion of the cut. That same 1/4 inch on longer hair is barely noticeable at all. The specific fix, and the exact phrase to say when you book. Can we schedule a shape maintenance trim at 4 to 6 weeks, not a full restyle? This distinction matters because a shape maintenance trim is quick, often just 15 or 20 minutes, and it's only correcting the areas that grow fastest, usually the nape and the sides, rather than redoing the whole cut from scratch. It's a completely different appointment than the one where you originally got the pixie, and most salons will happily book this shorter, less expensive maintenance slot if you simply ask for it by name. The result of getting this timing right is honestly one of the most satisfying shifts in this entire video. Your cut looks freshly cut almost the entire time between full restyles, instead of looking great for 2 weeks, and then slowly sliding into grown out for the remaining month and a half. You stop having that dreaded stretch where you're avoiding photos, because you know your cut isn't at its best. I think about a woman named Josephine here, who told me she used to feel like her pixie had exactly 1 good week per month, right after her appointment, and then a slow decline until the next one. Once she started booking that quick 4-week shape trim in between her longer color appointments, she said for the first time in years she genuinely never had a bad hair month. Every single week looked close to that first day photo, because the shape was never allowed to drift far enough to notice. Before and after here isn't about a single haircut, it's about the whole month. Before, one appointment every 8 to 10 weeks, with the shape visibly softening and losing its edge for most of that stretch. After, a quick shape maintenance trim every 4 to 6 weeks, keeping the silhouette crisp and current through nearly the entire cycle. Now the second half of this part, and it's a detail I almost never see anyone mention: your sideburns. On a pixie, the sideburn area is far more visible and far more exposed than it ever was with longer hair. And it's one of the few places on the whole head where uneven or overly blunt cutting is instantly noticeable, because there's nothing else nearby to soften it. The specific phrase for your stylist: please taper my sideburns, don't cut them straight across. A straight, blunt line at the sideburn creates a small but very visible hard edge right at the widest, most visible part of your face, the same way a blunt nape does at the back. Tapering means the hair there is thinned and angled gradually into the rest of the cut, so it blends rather than announcing itself as a separate, disconnected piece. This one detail matters enormously after 60, because our hairline at the temple often becomes slightly softer or more irregular with age. And a hard blunt line there draws attention directly to that irregularity. A tapered sideburn does the opposite. It blends seamlessly with whatever your natural hairline is actually doing, rather than fighting against it with a harsh geometric edge. I think of a woman named Marguerite, who mentioned almost in passing that she'd always felt her pixie looked slightly unfinished, right at the temples, without ever being able to say why. Her stylist looked closely and realized her sideburns had been cut with straight shears for years, never once tapered. One request, one small adjustment, and Marguerite said it was the first time her whole hairline looked like one continuous, intentional shape instead of a cut with 2 disconnected pieces at the sides. Before and after. Before, a straight, blunt sideburn line that stands out as a disconnected edge at your temple. After, a tapered sideburn that blends gradually into the rest of the cut, creating one continuous, intentional shape along your whole hairline. We've covered 4 mistakes now across these first 4 parts, and I've genuinely saved the one I think matters most for last, because it's not about the cut at all. It's about the one word almost every woman says to her stylist without realizing it's the most limiting word in the entire consultation. Part 5. The one word that's limiting every consultation you have. I want to start this last one with something a stylist told me years ago that I've never forgotten. She said the single word maintainable has ruined more great haircuts than any scissors ever could. Almost every woman over 60 walks into a Pixie consultation and says some version of "I just want something easy and maintainable," thinking she's being practical. But stylists hear that word as permission to default to the safest, most generic version of a Pixie they can think of, the one that requires the least explanation and the least risk, rather than the one that would actually suit your specific face, your specific hair texture, and your specific lifestyle. Maintainable isn't a real instruction. It's a word that lets your stylist stop asking you questions. This is the mistake that ties every single other mistake in this video together, because a generic, safe Pixie is exactly the kind of cut that skips graduated napes, skips custom-fit fringes, skips tapered sideburns, and skips proper timing conversations, because none of those things are necessary to produce something merely maintainable. They're only necessary to produce something that's actually specifically yours. The fix is to replace that one vague word with 3 specific pieces of information every single time you sit down for a consultation. First, name your actual daily routine. For example, "I wash my hair every other day and I'm only willing to spend 5 minutes styling it." Second, name a specific reference point for length and texture. Ideally a photo of your own hair from a good day, not a celebrity or influencer photo, since your stylist needs to see your actual texture and density, not someone else's. Third, name the one thing you disliked most about your last cut, specifically, whether that was the nape, the fringe, the sideburns, or how it grew out. These 3 pieces of real information give your stylist an actual brief to work from, instead of the vague, generic instruction to make something easy. Here's why this shift matters so specifically after 60. At this stage, most of us have decades of experience with our own hair. We know exactly how it behaves, what frustrates us, and what we actually enjoy about our routine. That accumulated knowledge is incredibly valuable information for a stylist, but only if it actually gets communicated instead of being compressed down into one vague, catch-all word. Every specific detail you hand over is one fewer generic default your stylist has to fall back on. I want to close with a woman named Eleanor, because her story is the one that ties this whole video together. Eleanor had gotten what she called fine safe Pixies for almost 5 years, always polite, always fine, never quite right. At her most recent appointment, instead of saying maintainable, she told her stylist exactly her wash schedule, showed a photo from a good hair day 8 months earlier, and said plainly that she'd always hated how her sideburns grew out blunt. Her stylist used every one of those details, graduated the nape properly, custom fit a soft fringe to her current hairline, tapered the sideburns, and booked her a 4-week shape trim before she even left the chair. Eleanor said it was the first Pixie in 5 years that actually felt like hers, not a safe, generic version borrowed from nobody in particular. The snapback here is the biggest one in the whole video. When you stop asking for maintainable and start asking for specific, you stop getting a cut that merely looks fine on other women, and you start getting the one cut that was actually built around you. Your face, your hair, your real daily life. Before and after one final time. Before one vague word, maintainable, that hands your stylist permission to default to the safest, most generic Pixie possible. After 3 specific pieces of real information, your routine, your reference photo, your one true dislike, that hand your stylist an actual brief for a cut built specifically around you. 7 mistakes. 5 fixes worth writing down and taking straight into your next appointment. That's everything I've got for you on this one. You now know the 7 exact spots where a Pixie quietly goes wrong after 60. The nape, the fringe, the color, the morning routine, the timing, the sideburns, and that one word maintainable, that's been limiting every consultation you've ever had. That's not small. That's the entire difference between a cut that just sits there and one that actually works for you every single day. Tell me in the comments, which of these 7 you're taking straight to your next appointment. I read every single one. Next week I'm covering the exact questions to ask before your first ever color appointment after going gray, so you walk in prepared instead of guessing. like this video, subscribe to Timeless Wisdom Path, and I'll see you in the next one.